On this episode, I detail all my stuff for camera gear and what I use wherever I'm hunting, whatever trip I go on. This is what I'm taking, all right here on Gun Talk Hunt.
Hey, I'm KJ, dedicated lifelong hunter here. If you got an interest in all things hunting, you're in the right spot. Whether chasing quail across the plains of Oklahoma or in pursuit of elk in the backcountry of British Columbia, you'll always find me on the hunt.
All right, welcome all you Gun Talk hunters. I'm your host, KJ, and today we're kind of deep diving into my camera equipment, and I just kind of have it all laid out here. I actually had it in the office with me today, and I was going through it and make sure and everything's fine-tuned, cleaned up, and ready for the hunting seasons. Now's the time to do that. Now's the time to reevaluate all your equipment, whether you're talking about your camouflage, your any saws that you might have that you have to cut equipment with or cut trees and limbs with, anything like that, your scopes, your gun. Like, now's the time when you need to start like fine-tuning and refining your equipment. And I just happen to like have all my equipment here for filming and thought I would give you guys a look at what I'm taking back with me. Today's episode is brought to you by Range Ready Studios. Thank you, Range Ready Studios. You guys are awesome over there. Find all your training needs at rangereadystudios.com. All right, let's jump in. Okay, a few years ago, as crazy as it sounds, I decided, and this is really funny, I decided to go on an antelope hunt and see if I could get it done and get back like within 24 hours. Now, the timer started when the wheels left the tarmac in Louisiana, and so I had 24 hours to get a goat on the ground and get it to the processor within enough time. Well, I wanted to capture it all. Like, I wanted to capture, you know, the layout and how the hunt progressed. Could I get it done? I was pretty confident I could get it done. I was hunting over there in Unit 26 in Wyoming. And that was almost one of my last times to go down there. Man, antelope hunting in Wyoming has absolutely exploded. As always, like, if you guys want any advice or anything like that, or just to pick my brain about hunting antelope in Wyoming, give me a shout, kj@guntalk.com. And as always, any of this information that I share out, or if there's topics that you want to hear, kj@guntalk.com. I'm happy to help. Happy to bounce around ideas. I love hearing from you guys. Always a great time. So let's start at the start of the trip. So I go on this trip and I'm like, I got to film it. I'm not taking a camera guy. It's all self-film. So what did I take? It's pretty much what's laid out here. And you know what? Funny thing is, and I know no one will believe this, we have great editors here. We have always had great editors that have been able to tell a story. But in order to get to that story, you need to have an idea. So you need, and sometimes the story plays out within a hunt or fishing trip or car journey, anything that you take, the story's going to play out. This one happened to go without saying it was the 24-hour antelope. So that's really what it was all about. That's the story. I was using a Ruger American. I think it was a 300 Blackout is what I was using, which if I was to do it all over again, that is not the gun I would probably choose to go with. And that is, man, I just don't think I would do that. And then I was filming through it's funny because I was filming through an ATN scope, because I could capture the shot on film. So you have to think about that too, is capturing that shot. And I've got a few tips and tricks to help you with that. So anyway, so we get into the trip, the wheels go up, and it all started with notes on paper, on book. And I highly recommend you carry a notebook of some sorts with you. It provides great information. I detail most all my hunts in my notebooks because, one, the kids can always go back and they can look and they go, oh man, in 2008, my dad was sitting in a stand on November 23rd, and man, he saw 7 deer that morning, and one of them was pretty good, but he opted not to pass. These were the weather conditions. I always take that, but I also take it to take notes about the stories of my hunts. It helps me collect my thoughts. It helps me put everything on paper. That way I know what I filmed. Whether it's a scrap piece of paper or whatever. And then, you know what, it also doubles as is if I get a buck on the ground or I get an animal on the ground, I can tag it right there and make notes and everything else. So always handy to have a notebook. But where it all really started, that hunt, was with a cell phone. Today's technology and today's cell phones take amazing videos, and there is nothing wrong. I'm telling you right now, you don't need the largest camera out there. You don't need the newest whiz-bang, Sony or Canon or whatever it might be. You can capture great footage on the camera. Now, there's going to be limitations with this, but you have to be aware of those. And I think if you're aware of, when you're zooming in and you have zero stability or anything bracing this camera, you are going to get a fairly large amount of shake. It's just like an optic. I mean, it is 100%. Like when you go into that magnification and you start dialing in and you start looking at that animal and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that magnification is going up to, 16, 18, stuff like that, you are going to see a visible wobble in that footage. So I would recommend backing it off until you see a very slight wobble, and that's about going to be your length of, what you want to shoot. So I would take selfie videos, and I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds weird. Going through the airport, like telling the story of the journey, like showing the time on my clock when the wheels go up. That was one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, was to watch my timepiece. I mean, I was all eyes on that watch because that's what was telling the story. So set off. The hunting day actually started the next day. If I was doing this over again, I would fly in on opening day. That way I could hunt in the evening and the morning to get it done. Turns out, I kind of backed myself in a corner, and I wanted to scout a little before. So I was telling that story. I drove through a fire in northern Denver, which was kind of cool. The whole, the atmosphere was very smoky and everything. And so I got pictures of that. I got videos of that. But it's just a process of telling a story. And that's what we're really doing. You're doing that with your video, and you're doing that with your images. Your images tell a story, whether you think it's just a screen capture of a buck you just shot. Everything about that hunt tells a story, and capturing those memories are what all of this is about. So you go over, and I get to the hunting grounds, and I'm setting everything up, and I want to do this kind of interview style. So, every little piece about this story, like I had to stop in Cabela's, and I had to get an orange hat. I forgot an orange hat. You've got to have one, and then I had to, I think I forgot my license on that trip. I'm pretty sure. So I had to go get a reprint. So go get a reprint. All that stuff is part of telling that story. And I captured most of that with a phone and a Tascam. So a Tascam is basically a separate video or an audio recorder that records on a separate file. And so you have that audio version separated. Okay. So I was able to sync it up with this. I would have to do a little sync clap every time, just so editors know where to line audio and video up if they're recorded separately. These little Rode Wireless 2 Go mics do the same thing. They're a little bit bulkier, but if you're on the go and need a wireless way to route your audio into your phone, these little Rode Wireless Go 2 little mics do a great job of that. There are limitations if you get, on the other side of a truck or something like that, and you're moving away and you don't have a direct line of sight with those mics, it can cause some interference. So just be aware of that. And then the other camera that I would use that's really quick and really easy to use is a simple GoPro. This is a GoPro 9 Black, very easy to use. You can just tap the camera or the record button and it'll start recording. And so you can get really wide shots and very fine detail. Now, if you want to punch in on a shot or you want to punch in on anything highly recommend you going in and filming in 4K, because then you can kind of punch in on it without losing a whole lot of video quality. So for interview styles and interview pieces that I would do during that antelope hunt was I use a little stabilizer, and this is it's a single axis stabilizer Cloud Shadow 4. And this is a very inexpensive gimbal for your phone or GoPro, whatever you have, but very easy to use, very easy to set up. It does come with a remote, so you could, and this is where taking images by yourself, it comes in handy. It folds up very compact, so it doesn't take up a lot of room in your pack. Highly recommend getting one of these because you will look like a legit influencer if that's your thing. And at not a big price. It really was inexpensive. I want to say like $30 or something like that. Inexpensive wireless operation on your at your disposal, if you will. But definitely get something to make that video steady, because during those moments of the shot, when you're really trying to settle in and make the shot, you don't want to have to think about all your camera and your gear. Is it on? Is it not? Is it recording? You have to do all that stuff beforehand. You kind of have to almost practice. Take your camera equipment out to the range while you're going through your motions, while you're sighting in. Take your camera equipment out there, because believe it or not, that's part of the story too. But all interview style. So moment of shot comes on that antelope, and I was down to the last 30 minutes. So I pull off to a spot where I'd seen antelope the night before, all part of the story. And I said, this is the spot that I'm going to start. And I got on an antelope and I started making my way, and I was tracking it. And out of the corner of my eye, at the very top of the hill, I got within, this was shooting I was about to make it happen. And unfortunately, this part didn't make it into the story. But out of the corner of my eye, I look up, and I see two orange dots on a hill, on top of the hill, and they're looking my direction. I'm within 200 yards of this antelope, and I felt more comfortable at 150 with the setup that I was given, and especially with my camera equipment, because I wasn't going to be able to see the shot as well, and I was going to be dancing all around. And I took a tripod. I was shooting off of a tripod. That is very important to note here. That camera in that ATN scope was settled. And I'm sitting there, and these guys are probably about 600 yards away from the antelope, because I was trying to do ballistic math here with my rangefinder. They're about 600 yards, and their first shot breaks, and they're shooting at the antelope that I'm closing in on. I wave my hat. I'm waving my hat and saying, "Hey, look, I'm over here." And I back out. They didn't care. They fired 3 more shots at that antelope. And it's lucky they weren't directly pointed at me, because they were horrible shots. They were awful. Not that we all haven't had our time, because Lord knows I have messed up a lot. All right. On the other side of this break, we're going to finish this story. We're going to finish out all this kit right here that you see. I'm going to tell you what we're using. But this episode is brought to you by Range Ready Studios. I recently took a DPI course. Chris Serino calls that the Diagnostic Pistol Instructor course. You don't need to be an instructor, which I'm definitely not. But it's all about diagnosing the problems that you have and the problems that you see in your shooting skills or others. So you go through this class, and what you're learning is what to look for, what people are doing, whether it's grip pressures, whether it's too much finger on the trigger, all those little details that'll make you a better shot and help you make other people better shots. That's the Diagnostic Pistol Instructor course, which we have up on the website right now, and you can sign up for it. I think spots are running out, so you may want to get on those as soon as possible. So visit Range Ready Studios to learn more about the Diagnostic Pistol Instructor course, and we do have a semi-auto operator Pistol 1 course coming up. You don't have to be an operator. You just got to want to learn how to run a gun better. All that at rangereadystudios.com. All right, jumping back in here. All right, we're talking camera equipment. I'm your host, KJ. Get that out of the way. All right, so, going through the moment of the shot, and you can see it in the video. You can look it up on our YouTube page. Just look up 24-hour antelope, and you're going to see the video. It's not very long, but it's entertaining. So moment of shot comes. So I back out, and I'm like, nope, not doing it. I'm going across the street where there's another piece of public land. All this is public land. This is not guided. This is just me thinking of a weird way to hunt antelope. And so I drive and I see antelope, and they are literally fighting on top of this ridge. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this could happen. And so I jump out of the truck. I start recording on the ATN unit, and I record these two antelope fighting because it's primetime rut. It's just the perfect morning. And I'm sitting there watching this, and then they crest the hill, and I go, now's my shot. So I take off running. I take off running with a GoPro. I take off running with my ATN and Ruger American, and I take off at a dead sprint up the hill. I've literally got, I've got about 40 minutes at this point, or 45 minutes of time when I either succeed or fail, because I've got to get a flight. Like, I have a flight in, I think it was like from the time I shot, I had to get back to Denver, which is roughly a 2.5 hour drive. And I had, I had about 40 minutes left. So I had to navigate Denver airport and all that stuff. Anyway, I had to catch a flight. So I had a hard deadline I was up to. It's not like I could have been like, I'll stay over a day. I had to get it done. So I get up, the ATN is on. I verify the optic is on, that I'm filming on every platform. I've got my phone running. I crest the hill, and the antelope were way down in a basin. And I'm like, this is not going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen. There's no way it's going to happen. Well, it's so funny. You're going to see it in the video. I tell you, go watch it in the video. I'll put the link in the description. So I'm sitting there, and now I've got about 30 minutes left. I'm like, well, and all of a sudden, here comes like 3 bucks chasing this this doe, like chasing her right towards me. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I turn off my camera equipment? So I start looking, verifying, okay, camera's rolling, everything's rolling, and ran, I don't know, I think it was 100 yards. Probably 100 yards from me. They had no clue. I was sitting out in the middle, just sitting on my tail end, and the buck stops, and I'm like, here it goes. And he starts moving again. I'm like, oh no. And then I'm leading it, and I go to break the shot, and you see the scope jerk. And I'm like, oh crap, it didn't load. So I have to rack another one in the round, and then all of a sudden, antelope stops. And I knew he was about to move, and he took about 4 or 5 steps to start running, and I broke the shot, collapsed him right there. Captured it all on video, got everything done, but it was difficult. I would never do it again, ever in my life. Would not do that hunt again. No 24-hour goats for me. But some of the gear that got me through that is I have a remote because I wanted to take pictures afterwards and everything else. So I picked up a very cheap Chinese knockoff off of Amazon for my A7 III. This is kind of my go-to for slow-mos, my go-to for any pretty shots that I want. Any real low light shooting that I'm going to be doing is going to be on this camera because, man, it's a mirrorless camera. It is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to low light conditions. And and we all know like 90% of the critters that we shoot come at the last minute. I mean, that's just how they come up, and you want to capture all those moments. So I recommend getting a camera that can bring in a lot of light, and the mirrorless cameras, A7 III is a great option for you guys. But capturing those long shots. So that A7 III comes with a 28 to 70, general lens. that is a nice lens. It's very nice. I've shot a lot of stuff with it. Just recently picked up a little 50 millimeter lens that our editor Benjamin told me I had to buy. So I got it. So far, I really like it. But I have a cheap, again, this is an external mic that I don't think the A7 III, the mic's okay, the internal mic's okay, and you're going to pick up some good sound. But buy an external mic. You can pick these up on the Amazon site for about like $30. Like, so I highly recommend picking up a good little shotgun mic for the camera. Batteries I keep in a hard plastic case. This houses extra batteries, and it also will house my extra camera cards that I need. Always go with backup batteries and backup cards. And speaking of batteries, if you need a quick charge out in the field, Dark Energy Poseidon Pro is what I carry. This thing has gotten me through some long weeks. Long weeks in the backcountry. Great in Alaska. It was great in Colorado. Great in Canada when I went up there and didn't have adequate power sources. But Dark Energy, they do a really good job. So longer shots, we've been using around this office. We've been using this Nikon. This is a full HD. This is the Coolpix P900. Can really reach out there. It is, I want to say it is 24 to 2000 millimeter lens there. So you can really reach out and film anything. If it's out 200, 300 yards, a 28 to 70 isn't going to get you a really crisp, clean kill shot. But something like that where you can really zoom in and capture wildlife and just see at further distances is really handy to have out in the field, especially if you're not sure. Use your camera. If you have something with a lens like this, like 83x zoom on it, you can definitely know what you're looking at with that amount of like space. So just keep that in mind. Going through the rest of it. So what do you do like in the backcountry and stuff as far as organizing cords and everything else? Again, another little Amazon find. I think this one was like a whole $9, I think. So big spender over here. But it's like a camera cord organizer is all it is. They sell them in various sizes. Another SSD external hard drive. When you get back to camp, I highly recommend you dropping all your footage. That way you have it saved somewhere besides on a card that if it gets wet or something happens to that card, it gets corrupted somehow, you have your footage already dropped and you don't have to worry about it. Dropping in a couple different places would be the best, but this is a great option. These are a little bit more expensive, but well worth it, and they don't take a whole lot of time to drop. But yeah, that's kind of the kit. This is a little brand new little purchase. This is a little soft shell from Peak Design that is basically just a camera cover to keep it protected from the elements. Mike Hearn over at Free Range America, he turned me on to this one, and I really like it so far. Very easy to put on and everything else. So remember, it's all about telling a story, right? We want to tell stories, even if it seems like a minute little detail, like forgetting your orange hat or driving through like a big fire or something like that. Like, it's all part of the story. That's the stuff that you're going to remember. And one of these days, we'll talk about framing up pictures and making them look good and how you do that in the backfield. But this is more for the storyteller. This is more for the guys looking to, pass along like video memories and stuff like that, and picking up those once in a lifetime experiences that you always have while hunting. I can't tell you how many times that I've been without a camera that I absolutely wish I had one, because it would help me remember a little bit better, especially now that I'm getting old. And I know a lot of you guys out there, you kind of can feel me on that, right? Because we're aging, and as we get up in age, our memories don't tick like they normally do. So this is good stuff, man. And you guys got any questions always reach out to me, KJ at guntalk.com. Be happy to talk through some stuff. And if you got any tips and tricks out there, I'm always willing to learn. I'm always loving to learn. But we're going to be back, probably next week with another great guest. So you guys just hang tight and we'll be back with you. On Gun Talk Hunters, you know the drill. Keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction and always be on the hunt.